directly to that area, there's no way to do that.
No, there's other access points, people could go out Morgan Way out to 10. That's another way. How many access points do you need for a little neighborhood?
That's not, how many units? Like 500 units.
But like, what do you want, like 5, like 200?
Yeah, like
5 or 6 major roads go through there?
No, it's over 400.
No,
No, it's not.
Residents?
It was 110 or something like that, single family.
Okay.
There were over 200 apartments, and then the rest were townhouses.
I don't have the plan from it, I thought there was 144 apartments.
Yeah, there's 144
I
apartments.
thought there was 68 or 86, something like that, townhomes.
There were over 400 units.
Yeah.
There is?
400 units in the overall
It's in the
plan.
minutes,
It is in the minutes?
yeah. 144 apartments, 42 townhomes, 100 houses,
Okay.
so 282.
280.
Yeah.
For some reason I had in my mind.
400.
Yeah.
So 280 is still a lot.
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah. Right, but a lot of them are, they're apartments.
Well, at this point, they're the ones that ball's in their court to do the initial draft and get it to us for review and comment. So, I mean, it's, right now, we're waiting for them.
That project that was just in here would be perfect for that property. 3 vehicles, and it's flat, because they were claiming where they're looking is hilly or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Anything else on the overlay? Okay, we'll move on to amendment, zoning ordinance for keeping of farm animals.
Yeah, the draft that I sent out was, it was the first, pass, and I believe, any changes or whatever you wanna do is fine. I just wanted to get something back to you to start the discussion, or keep the discussion going.
We wanna really call it keeping of farm animals. They'd be like non-standard pets or something, because, what do they call them? We have an ordinance, what do they call them? Not non-standard, but non-conventional
If you
animals.
say non-conventional pets, then somebody might think of crocodile fries or something.
Yeah,
True.
the definition in the other ordinance, domestic animal, exotic animal, household pet. This really was, the whole purpose of this was to address people wanting to keep poultry,
Yeah.
piggy, goats, whatever.
I think if we keep the farm animals, it's farm animals, that's what they are, let's just stick with it.
Yeah.
Because if you name it something else, we're gonna reinvent the wheel.
I thought we had some.
Well, if that's what you wanna do, then we'll need to sharpen the definition for that. Because of, farm animals susceptible to different meanings. What is a farm animal to one person is a pet to another.
That's what started this whole thing, because chickens can be looked at as a farm animal,
Or a pet.
but they're a lot of times pets, yeah.
And so, I think I would encourage you to discuss the concept. If this is how you want to regulate, we'll still have some language issues from a legal standpoint to fill in and complete with regard to definitions and so on. But I didn't want to put pen to paper and put the time into doing that if this concept just doesn't work. I know there's been a lot of differences, different views expressed over the months on this topic.
I thought we said in residential areas, anything smaller than a medium-sized goat, I thought that's what we discussed. Is that not what we?
But, and that's really, one of the comments from the county was the original draft was limited to R1, 2, 3, 4. Why limit it to, bigger properties in R5 or R6? So this took all that away. and just talks about residential property anywhere in the township. Basically, if it's a property less than 5, if it's a residential property, if there's not, like in the R2, you may have farmettes out there. And, you know, if it's more than 5 acres, it's considered, you can have actual agriculture as a use by right. So it's not an issue out there. It's really for residential properties that aren't doing anything other than that. And it's to either, basically right now, there's no control. So someone in Penwood could come in and put a chicken coop up with 15 chickens.
I'm sure there's someone in there has chickens,
Well,
chickens.
but there's no control right now, and that's the whole point.
And that's
is
why, what we had a problem with were people like in Morgan Circle, I think, that wanted chickens, but didn't think they could have them. They posted on the internet, and of course there were people, no, you shouldn't have chickens, and we don't have anything to allow someone that wants a couple chickens to have them. And on the other hand, we don't have a limit. Like, once you have 3, then if you have 100, it might be a real problem, you know. But it's like, what we were really worried about is the less than acre properties. The real small residential communities like Penwood, Highcroft, they should be allowed to have a couple chickens for eggs and for a pet, you know, play with kids. But I don't know about having cattle. I mean,
Well, the bottom line is if your typical cow is 1,000 pounds.
when it's raised to butcher,
Okay,
yeah.
so in order to have it, you have to have at least 2 acres. You know, the way this is set up. The same with a horse. Typical horse is 1,000 plus. So you're looking at least 2 acres to have a horse. So, and that's why it's graded that way. The smaller animals, you know, the pig and goats might be 25 pounds, maybe 30. So you might have you know, a couple of those.
The only thing on here that doesn't seem right to me is that with the poultry, it says less than 5 acres should not exceed 50 pounds per acre. So that means on like a regular residential lot, you could only have 1 chicken, because they weigh about 10 pounds.
Actually,
They're probably
it's,
about 5 with the
yeah,
Well, 5 to
actually
10
the
depending on-
typical chicken is about, it's between 5 and 7 pounds.
Okay. So if you had a 1/4 acre lot, like most residential lots, you could have,
A 1/4 acre lot, would you be able to have
1
2?
chicken. With 2?
2.
You could probably.
And these numbers can be adjusted, you know, however you wanna do it. And the whole point of this was to start discussion and thinking about it. I really didn't mean for this to be approved tonight or anything like that. It's just a, you know,
Something to look at.
yeah, and get discussion, or keep discussion going on it. The other thing that, on the second page, the last item, number K, in other municipalities that I've dealt with, there's no regulation on honeybees. And really, I'm not, actually, I put this in, this language came from another ordinance. Basically, all it was trying to do was not restrict it, because, you know, if you wanna have a hive for yourself, that's fine. But to have 4 hives on a 1/4 acre property, that could be a problem, you know, for your neighbors.
If you keep 3 in the house.
There again, and again, this is just start the discussion.
This is actually pretty good. what you alluded to, think it's something to start with.
Yeah.
The only thing with bees, is there any way you can ask a bee owner to maybe get something signed by the neighbors, 2 doors on either side of them, let's say? Because what if his son is allergic to bees, and I put a bee nest right next to my fence at their back door, then their son can't even play outside. That's unfair completely.
I've not seen that. I have seen bee ordinances, apiary ordinances. I've cited to a good one. I did not write it, but in my presentations and such, different groups, Hatfield Borough in Montgomery County has a good example of one that would be what I would call a model. So there are things that you can do to discourage bees from flying to the neighbor's house, for example. Something called a flyway, which funnels the bees away from neighbors. Requiring a fresh water supply in close proximity to the hive, because apparently when bees leave, they make a beeline to water. And so if the neighbor has a swimming pool or something, that's gonna be the attractant. And so if you put it on, you're required to be on the keeper's own property, then you avoid some of that. But the Department of Agriculture has a best management practices, which you could incorporate into a zoning ordinance and require these keepers comply with the best management practices. My understanding is that most do anyway, because it is healthy for their hives. They would be an incentive not to comply with EMPs. So from a legal perspective, we would get far more detail than what you see on the K, if you would like.
Yeah, I would like to see something, not to drag this out any longer than it needs to be, but K is a little scary for someone who is allergic to bees. And then they're trapped in their house and can't get out.
The issue right now is,
I am not, but my nephew is.
yeah, but right now, anybody could put a hive on their property. Or have multiple hives on their property. So it's something that, this was just the first start to try to figure out how do we wanna control it?
So you're telling me if we adopt this, we're actually restricting people more than allowing? You're
Well-
saying that currently they can have,
Right.
chickens in Kenwood as many as they want?
Right now, there's no regulation.
Yeah, cause I thought the whole point of this was.
To
because
allow
they-
it.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It's not anywhere. In other words, the animal control ordinance that you have doesn't address it. So somebody on Morgan Drive,
So if somebody wants
Like
to have
Morgan
24
Circle
chickens
could
in
have-
Kenwood, they should go do it now.
could have 3
Well,
piggy
no, I don't
goats,
think we should
or
do anything to
could have a
restrict
potbelly
those.
pig. Right now, we try to dissuade people from having chickens in residential areas until we get this worked out.
Well, I mean, I would like to get this passed as soon as possible, but
Well, he's saying if we pass this, we're actually restricting people more than they are
Yeah.
restricted
I
now.
know.
I don't really.
I thought
know.
that,
But it
The
also has
opposite.
language in there that makes sure that we're covered also. Should there be a, negligent pet owner.
But we're covered now, I mean, what do you mean by?
Well,
covered?
because, look at the SPCA, what happened with that last 2 years ago. We're gonna end up in the same situation with now chickens, goats, pigs, sheep, etc. This has wording in it that protects us from that.
I'm not sure what we mean by protecting us.
Cost wise.
What do you mean, disposing of these meals?
No. No, if the police have to go out time after time, there's wording in there that, there then becomes fines or whatever, expenditures to the homeowner. To the pet owner, I should say. But I also thought that this was to allow, not
yeah,
restrict, but nonetheless, we have to have wording that protects the township
It's
as
really
well as
like-
the residents.
I don't wanna say restrict, you're trying to regulate,
Yeah.
is what you're trying to do.
Yeah, trying to stop a property owner from being a nuisance to their neighbor.
Correct.
And I should say a irresponsible property owner. Cause a good neighbor would not be a nuisance to the neighbor.
Well, and what I would suggest is if anybody has any comments, email me. And I can, incorporate, work some stuff in.
Yeah, like, we had deals where we had to get rid of dogs and stuff that were abandoned. With chickens and stuff, a lot of people take them because they want the egg. It's not hard to get rid of chickens and small, whatever,
Just-
you know.
Just so the audience knows what we're talking about, the SPCA sent us a bill for the following year, which would have been 2 years ago, for the following year, to put us under contract with them for $10,000. It started out at 20, actually.
Yeah.
They negotiated down to 10. But we had, I think, if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me, I think the number was like 3 dogs a year or something like that, less than 6. So, and that's at the taxpayer's expense at that point, if you don't know whose dogs they are. So, the SPCA was saying, okay, we're gonna charge you $20,000 a year on your contract and we'll take all your pets. Well, that's wonderful. So if we send them 5 pets at $20,000, you know what I mean, that's pretty expensive. So if we elected to go with a different service, that's why this is, conversation's going on. We've been down this road and so we're just trying to figure out what's best. Move on.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah, we'll look at that.
Recommendations.
Plan reviews chart.
Really, there's nothing pressing. Wywico had their reaffirmation of the approvals, and that's the only one that's gonna be coming in for your signature shortly, I expect. They're getting their stuff together for their, to get the plans recorded.
Senior subdivision, that's getting pretty close to. That's waiting for agreement. So just saying that, because one of the planning
Yeah.
commissions, well, actually, we got the planning commission signature on that, sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Board might have to reaffirm, and if they don't take their stuff in, why would be March? So keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
Okay, Morgantown Apartments, though, I wonder, what do you think, they're gonna need to extend, right? That expires next month.
Given all of their required agreements to sign, but I've not heard anything back.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything from them.
Right, yeah, there's just a preliminary approval, right?
No, that's
I
fine.
think they're final.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't see
They were ready
ground
to-
for nothing yet.
to get all their stuff in, to have the new owner be the signatory on the plans.
Okay.
And that, to my knowledge, the settlement transpired. I mean, they did, Torino, I think, Polino bought the apartment project, and that did happen. So it's, I'm not sure why we don't have the plans in yet.
zoning reviews, renaming IOP.
That's all part of the, that's actually part of the first one, well, part of the.
Should I just take that off?
Yeah, because it's actually part of the
overlay.
the overlay.
Okay.
Ordinance codification.
Yeah, it's just for future, it's gonna cost a good bit, about 10+ thousand, so I just wanna keep it on our radar that really to keep up with technology, we really need to head in that direction, but we need some revenue to come in.
You know, and that note, casino has started to back up. Just so you're aware, they are anticipating opening sometime in '21. They are pushing, they're pushing their contractor really hard. And they've made some major revisions with them purchasing the gaming, I'm trying to,
Barstool.
thank you,
Mhm.
Barstool. They've made modifications inside the plan. I had a Zoom meeting with them last week to see what the changes were. And sometime around March 12th, they're expecting to get us the revised plans so we can get them, you know, checked out and they can get back full bore on construction. So, but they're expecting sometime this year to open.
Nice.
Okay, any other comments from members?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?